Hey, what's up, guys? How about we try this without kicking the tripod, huh? Love live video. Because you have all these little things that can happen and go wrong. I'm not going to get it to stay here and look down. There we go. All right. Huge, huge box. Let's get a tape measure. Tell you exactly the size of this box. "30 inches, 19 inches, 10 inches. Got a working computer this morning. Get my mouse to respond. So this is the juiced JazzInc from his company JazzInc, which makes 1/6 scale dioramas and such. And he announced this, I don't remember, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, maybe longer. A 1/6 scale Landspeeder from Star Wars. The movie that was later dubbed Star Wars 4, A New Hope. And of course, when I seen this Landspeeder was being made, it was a no-brainer for me. Because in my opinion, it truthfully tells so much of the story. Probably one of the more famous lines from the movie is what people refer to as the Jedi mind trick. And the stormtroopers that are in Tatooine are searching for the escaped droids C-3po and R2d2, who have made their ways to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Old Ben, which is what Luke knows him as, he doesn't know him as Obi-Wan, uses his Jedi mind trick on the stormtroopers. My back is really bothering me, by the way, so I'm bending weirdly. Uses his ability to coerce weak minds on the stormtroopers to get out of the interrogation and conceal the droids, because they're in the process of trying to leave Mos Eisley Spaceport. secure passage aboard some type of vessel. Wow. Skinnier than I thought it was going to be, but longer than I thought it was going to be. If that makes any sense whatsoever. Comes with this piece of acrylic to stand it on, which is going to give it the appearance of floating. Now, when I was a kid, when the movie came out, I had the Landspeeder that Luke owned, made by Kenner. It was about yay big, and it had these little wheels in it that were on springs, and you could bounce the Landspeeder, just give it a little push, and the wheels would give it this hovering action. This one does not have wheels. It's just a resin cast. It's not that heavy. It's actually lighter than an Iron Man die-cast figure. Metal screen inside the engine pods. So all this is cast resin, is what it feels like to me. It doesn't feel like plastic. Instead of them making, like a brand new one, they made it to resemble the one that Luke actually used. With all the battle damage. Well, I suppose it wouldn't be battle damage. We use the term battle damage because of the Iron Man's figures are battle damage. This is just worn and beat up. Luke, obviously, or his Uncle Owen, who raised him, obviously he doesn't care about this piece of equipment. It's just a piece of equipment out in Tatooine, on this desert planet that they lived. He didn't bother to keep it nice, I'm assuming. It's not very even. This isn't interesting. This side had the cover off of it. Do you remember? Get this out of the box and sit on the table, and I'm going to sit down. Don't have these backwards, do I? No, this one goes here. You want to sit really well. Interesting. It's going to fall out. As a matter of fact, it's not going to stay in there at all. We'll deal with that in a minute. Get this box out of the way so I can sit. My back is killing me. I thought these were coming with a plaque. I certainly don't see one here. Look on the bottom of the styrofoam. No plaque. Nothing. I thought these came with a plaque. Look at the top, just in case. Nothing. minute to sit down here. My back is really bothering me. I'm kind of disappointed in the this jet engine not sitting in here properly. This is obviously the right one. This one goes in the right side. I would have preferred these to be a little more secure. Okay, so even this one, even though it sits and it will sit in there without it sliding out, I'm not real sold on it sitting in there. This one, doesn't want to sit in there at all. It's not going in all the way. For one thing. Oh, jeez. Let's get a balance out of this. This was $399, by the way. I'm gonna have to probably apply some glue or sealant into this to get this to sit properly in here without it falling out. Let's get the camera down here. Now that I'm gonna stand up. Jeez. Give me a minute, guys. I may make a lot of noise standing up. Oh, God. God. All right. Whew, it wasn't so bad. All right. So you can see some detail on this now. Whew. My goodness. Noble, good morning. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the show. Now, if I remember correctly, my little Kenner, the hood popped open on it. I think you pushed a button on it right here, and the hood would pop open. Obviously, this isn't a Kenner, and to compare it to that is I mean, it's ridiculous to compare it to it. It's like comparing a Hot Wheels car to a model, a 1/25th scale model, 1/24 scale model of a car. There's not going to be any comparison in that regards. I don't have a Luke. I don't have a Ben. I do have the droids, and this little guy just isn't wanting to hang out here. I'll give you a closer look at this. But if you were to see this in person, there'd be no question about what it is that you're looking at. You wouldn't look at this and say, if you're a Star Wars fan, if you know anything about Star Wars, you wouldn't say, what the hell is this? I don't remember ever seeing this in the movie. It plays as pivotal a role, or it has an appearance as such as the X-Wing fighters do. So it's definitely something that has merit or presence, tells the story, which is what we are doing with our collecting. I don't much care for placement of this screen. I would have thought the screen would have been put in there better. See how it's up high right there? It's not really squared in there very well. I don't dig that. I'm not real impressed with that. Now, also in this piece, this back area, we'll show you the cockpit here. Let's take at this engine. This is nice and tight. Let's put some light on that. So that's the engine compartment. From my understanding, the steering wheel comes out and then can be placed back in. And so they say to remove the steering wheel in order to put your figure inside of it, and then place the steering wheel back into the hole where it goes. Now, as far as detail on this goes, it's not very detailed. There are images of this Landspeeder that are circulated all over the internet. Got a big old fingerprint right here. It's not mine. It's a glued fingerprint inside of it, and some ghosting there from the glue that was put on that as that was put in. So in regards to quality goes, not too impressed either. But I wasn't ever going to build one of these, and I've never seen a 1/6 scale Landspeeder anywhere. So in regards to it being unique, filling the niche, telling the story, it does that. In regards to it being Hot Toys quality, yeah, not even close. Not even close. See, that little piece just fell clean out. There's nothing holding these in. It just slides into here. Doesn't lock in, snap in. There's no groove, slot, ridge, or anything keeping it in place. But as I was kind of touching on a few moments ago, by the way, I have it hovering. I have it on its acrylic base. Right there. So get my hand out of there. You can see that it gives the appearance of being off of the ground. There's the bottom of the Landspeeder, and There's the ground. So if you were to look at it, you can see that it's hovering. Piece of acrylic underneath there. It's doing that. I touched on a little bit ago and hadn't got to it yet. This area where the droids sat, they could put their feet inside of this. So Juice made this available to come out, to place them in there. Just have an empty hole. Let's put some light in that. You have just an empty hole there. They would sit in. Now, I think the problem that we experienced, though, is C-3PO's legs don't bend at the knee. And he actually is sitting in here. So what I have here is the Sideshow C-3po. Now, Hot Toys showed us a C-3po, and they never released it with the red leg, if you remember. And it's so funny because in my childhood, I don't remember him having the silver leg, but he did. He obviously had the silver leg. The toys that I bought back then, the Kenner Star Wars figures, didn't come with a silver leg. He was gold. But in the movie, he actually had this portion of his leg was silver. In the latter movies, this portion of his leg is red. I don't remember if the whole leg is, but the left leg is red, and the right leg is gold. So he has the right leg repaired, but the left leg now is red. And there's a story behind it as well. You can track down the story about how he befriends a similar droid, and something about acid rain or something. I don't remember what the whole story is, but he ends up wearing his leg or something to that effect. I don't remember what the whole story is, but his legs don't move. This leg does, however, come out. I just lost the restraining bolt. This leg will come out. Oh, I beg your pardon. The leg does move, but only just a little bit. And this leg comes out, right? So, in a sense, we could get him kind of in a seated position, but not really. The Hot Toys version of this figure is not designed to sit in any capacity. I don't remember this leg coming out. So we really can't get him seated per se in there properly because of the restriction of the Hot Toys figure. Now, with that knowledge, I had been tracking down C-3POs, had found a couple. So the knee here that comes out will actually bend more than the other, but it doesn't matter because we can't really get him into a seated position as it is. We can't get his legs straight to his butt level. So I've been hunting down these C-3POs to try to find one that I could hit bash. And I quit my search after a while, but I fully intend to be able to find one that I could be able to put into this seated position on here, because this guy isn't going to work. I mean, that's the closest we can get into a seated position right there. So we can find the restraining bolt. And R2, unfortunately, as he was placed on the Landspeeder, was literally just like laying on his back or belly. I'm not sure which it was. And I do have an R2 that Hot Toys made. It does nothing but just light up and beep. Beepity boppity boop. That's all it does. So to lay one down, it would be obviously this one, because the doors don't open on him. It doesn't do anything but just flashes and makes noise. So we can retract this third leg. And this would be the one that we would lay down on the back of the Landspeeder. Just lasers, nothing for him to click into. Now again, talking about the Kenner one, they, if I remember correctly, you could click them into. There was like little pegs or something that you could snap them into to sit them back here. If I remember correctly, for some reason I have that in my mind, that you could do that with them. This is the direction he went, wasn't it? He doesn't appear to be on there well. I would have thought that. He'd have been more on there other than that. You see what I'm talking about? I mean, literally, here's the edge of the Landspeeder, the end of it. Right there. That's him all the way up against the engine compartment. That's the end of it. It's not even halfway through him. We have him leaning over here a bit. He'll stay like such. The Valkyrie what? The Valkyrie. You mean the Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok? Is that what you're talking about? No, I did not see a Valkyrie. Is that what you're referring to? Save all Mason? Oh, man. Oh, that's a figure that I've been begging for. Matter of fact, I pre-ordered the a horse and wings, a Pegasus, more or less, or Pegasi. I'm not sure what the singular term would be for one of those, in anticipation of one day getting her. Oh, wow. Oh, noble. So, and how does she look? What's her name? Tessa is her real name, right? I think we've pretty much talked this Landspeeder out. I'm happy to get it. I'm not quite as impressed as I would expect. It's definitely not Hot Toys quality whatsoever. Kind of disappointed in that manner. I also, though, didn't pay as much as I paid for a Hulkbuster. It cost me about the price of a die-cast Iron Man. So in that regards, you know, it's neither here nor there. I'm happy to have it. I probably would have paid that for it no matter, even after looking at it and seeing the hate to use the term, the quality of it is as a determination. It reminds me of this guy here where I live has a Naboo fighter that he has on display at his store, and I inquired one time about whether or not he would sell it. I don't remember if he ever gave me a price. I think he more or less said, "What will you offer me for it?" And it appears to be a 1/6 scale Naboo fighter. The gosh darn thing's probably 12 feet long. Maybe not that long. I'm trying to imagine in my mind how big it was. It's got it suspended from the ceiling. It's big. Big yellow Naboo fighter. It has an R2 unit, an astromech in the wing. It appears to be around 1/6 scale. And I would have gladly paid him a few $100s for that. And it's just a thing, you know, big thing. And I have absolutely no connection to it at all. I just really was impressed by it. Where this I actually have a type of an impression to. It's so much so, these are not the droids you're looking for. That Jedi mind trick, these are not the droids you're looking for. You can go about his business. You know, that really has stuck with me for most of my life, ever since seeing the movie. I remember that, you know, and you would do that with your friends, or we would reference that, and everyone would know exactly what you're talking about. These are not the droids you're looking for. And this literally tells that story. If I can get, you know, the Luke and the Obi-Wan, figure out a way to get these droids. That's that restraining bolt. Let's let it sit right there. Got a magnet on it, bounced onto my little screwdrivers over there. I can figure out a way to get these droids on here nicely. It'll work for me. You know what I mean? And the price paid for it, like I said, was $3.99. It's cheaper than what I've paid for some of the Iron Man figures. So I'm pleased in that regards. But no, the quality is not here. It's not as high quality as I would have hoped it should be. So, no, I'm really excited to hear that they've made a Valkyrie. That is extremely pleasing to me. Very, very, very pleasing. And there's that jet engine again. I hope that they proceed forward with it. One of the things that always makes me crazy, let's get this camera out here into position. And then it always makes me crazy is how Hot Toys will show a figure, and it's a figure that everyone's like, yeah, build it, and then they don't build it. And I pray that that isn't the case with the Valkyrie. I pray that she makes it to production. I mean, we have one already that they said they were going to release, right? Her in like her regular fighting clothes or something, the blue and green. I don't remember now what it is. That one hasn't come out yet. How we're still waiting on Eric Killmonger. Oh yeah, Valkyrie is a great looking character. It would be an equally beautiful figure should they actually continue and proceed with it. Hot Toys Jan Rog was also on display. I'm not sure who that is. I'm really excited for that, obviously, because he's a Marvel villain. Help me out. And the more they show him, the more likely he will actually come out. The Valkyrie that was on display looks like the one that they showed with the other Thor Ragnarok figures. Also, so she's not in her suit of armor. She's not in the silver or whatever color it is, like her armor of being the Valkyrie. It's just her as in the regular. I've seen that one. So it is her in her suit of armor. Looks like the one they showed with the other Thor Ragnarok figures. With the other Thor Ragnarok figures, when they showed her before, she wasn't in her suit of armor. She was just like in, I don't know, like a blue and green or purple or something. I don't remember what it was that she was in. Right? Is my memory wrong? It was just totally possible. I've seen Valkyrie shown before, but not in her silver suit of armor of her as a Valkyrie soldier. Oh, so anyhow, I bought these other R2 C-3POs in an attempt to trying to find one that I could bash into another one. They ended up becoming really great quality figures to the point where I'm like, I don't feel like I want to bust these up. This one is from 19... Let me get my glasses on so I can tell you what the story is with this one. I opened these up several months ago in anticipation of getting this, trying to prepare for a C-3PO. And I'm not sure if I want to bust these guys up. They may actually be... yeah, this is a 1997 C-3PO, and he looks great. This is made by Hasbro, trademark and copyright 1997, Lucasfilm Limited, distributed by Hasbro Inc., made in China. That's what it says on his little feet. And he's a solid, stiff figure. I mean, I've got Hot Toys figures that won't do this. And this guy's 20 years old, 22 years old. Look at that. And but he moves as well as this Hot Toys figure does. With the same movement in the legs as well, of not much at all. And Anthony Daniels had that problem as it was playing C-3PO in the movies. The suit was very restricting. Totally restricting. So it's not like, you know, putting him into a suit of a droid that could be totally moved around would be to his benefit, because he didn't totally move around. So this was one of them that I purchased, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just cut this one up. I can't cut this guy up. He is really too nice of a figure to do that with. There is the scene, obviously, where he is repaired, and he's all nice and gold and shiny, and this one works perfectly for that. And he's about the exact same size as the Hot Toys version of him. So they're very similarly scaled. So then this other one I bought, I mean, this guy's beat up. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'll have no problem doing it to this one. This one would be fun and easy to do, too, because he's totally beat up. And then when I got him, I changed my mind as well on that, because it's the blue outfit, not the white one. Oh, yeah, I've seen the blue one. Ghost Tav, how you doing? Yeah, I've seen the blue one. When they first showed it, I think it was San Diego Comic-Con a year ago. And I'm looking forward to her and her armor, more or less. The white one or the silver one, whatever the case is. So anyhow, this guy I ordered, and I did an unboxing video of all of these. This guy I purchased, and again, he's about the same scale, a little taller than the other two, by about half an inch or so. But he's not very articulated at all, and he's totally beat all to hell and back, and all of his plating is flaked off of him. But this guy, he's a find, if you will. I don't know what to do with him now, because he's got a history to him, and his history is that he's a GMFGI is who made this. General Mills Food Group Incorporated, if I remember correctly, is what I was told by one of you guys. 1978, made in Hong Kong. So this is an original. This is from back in the day. This is what you would have bought if you were trying to get a 1/6 scale G.I. Joe size large scale figure, which they were selling few of them back then. This would have been what you got. And he really has been through the ringer. But I just don't see, you know, busting him up because of that reason. He might be able to be restored. I don't know. And I don't know whether he's worth restoring either, to tell you the truth. The little screws in his back are totally rusted. But my goodness, he's a survivor. He's 42 years old. 42 years old. I sentimentally, I just can't bust him up now. I can't. I don't see myself putting him into this, breaking his legs, putting him in here, because he's 42 years old. He's survived all this time. You know what I mean? And I got him for a song. I mean, I paid, I mean, really, 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 practically nothing for him. I think maybe $10 if. And I'm sure the person was very happy to get rid of it. It was probably just some junk they found laying around. They had no idea how they had acquired it or why it was in their possession, I'm sure. But I don't know. Maybe it's silly to think this. I'm sure I paid exactly what he's worth, $10. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think or say about this. So these have been my C-3POs that I've purchased in an attempt to try and find one to put in this Landspeeder, which, in my opinion, is important. I'm probably going to spend $200 on getting another Sideshow one, or wait for Hot Toys to make one and bust the Sideshow one up. Don't know, to get him in there. I don't know. But that's my full attempt to display him on here. I started purchasing Stormtroopers as well. Would you buy a Hot Toys C-3po with red eyes for Rise of Skywalker, smoking weed version? I don't know about that. So I've got these Stormtroopers that I started tracking down. And again, I never had any intention of collecting the Star Wars figures, only because I've started collecting the Marvel figures. And I don't have the room as it is. But I'd always had intention of getting the Astromechs and C-3PO. And I thought about getting the other droids, and I go back and forth on that. So I've purchased so far, and this was months ago. I've not made any purchases in this regard since then. These Stormtroopers, and again, I've already unboxed them, and you'll see them in the previous video, or maybe you guys were there for it. I think a couple of you were definitely there for it. These Stormtroopers, I don't remember who made these guys. But they're just literally toys, if you will. They weren't cheap. I think they were, for some reason I have $100 in my mind as to how much those fellas were. The two there that are pretty much identical. You see C-3PO's back. The Astromechs. So I got one orange shoulder, one white shoulder of these guys, and make some room here. This Landspeeder is really taking up a lot of room. Check the placement of this. Don't want to spin it around. Knock it off if it's. Let's just throw C-3PO on the ground there. So you can see the scale here of them standing next to this. Anyhow, I think these guys were, for some reason I'm thinking they were $100 a piece. And there were 5 Stormtroopers that had surrounded them. If I remember correctly, there was one with the black shoulder pad, 1 or 2 with the orange shoulder pads, and then 2, I think, with the white shoulder pads. Now this one is a Medicom, and it was in the same packaging as a Sideshow Stormtrooper comes in. And I think the Medicom and Sideshow, I don't know what the relation is, but the packaging is very similar. And I'm curious if the Stormtroopers are very similar. So this one is a little higher quality than these other two are. So I would like to have a total of 5 of these stormtroopers. And these 2 are fine. They'll work perfectly well for my intention. And then I'd like to get 2 more of the Sideshow or something like that. And then an Obi-Wan and then a Luke Skywalker. You know, this acrylic shield, this windshield, isn't even the same. It's not cut perfectly even on both sides. I'm looking at this because a stormtrooper was standing in front of it. The little flat area here, the shield curves, and then it comes here, and then it goes straight flat. The height of that flat area there and the height of the flat area here are 2 different heights. Millimeters would be a lot more detailed reading, but that one is 1/4 of an inch high. This one is no, excuse me. This one is, yeah, 1/4 of an inch high, and this one is half of that, 1/8 of an inch high. Yeah, the quality is definitely not here. If you bought one of these or are kicking yourself for not getting one, just know that it's not a high quality Hot Toy style piece. Having said that, the Millennium Falcon cockpits are coming out. He's making those. I hope that the quality on that is better. I did not order that. I've seen that he had little seating areas for the recreation area in the Millennium Falcon where they had the chess set. Sideshow made a chess set with the little figures many years ago. Sometimes I see those being sold for very reasonably priced. I've thought about picking one up one time because it was so reasonably priced. A couple of the pieces were busted on that, and I think that's why they were getting rid of it. And he's making, I guess, an additional piece to complement that as well, the Millennium Falcon. You remember, what's his name? Howard Chan, who owns Hot Toys, president and CEO of Hot Toys. I'm not sure if he owns it or what the relationship there is. He actually has a 1/6 scale Millennium Falcon that he crafted. And it was on display, I think, at ACG HK back in 2017 or something. And it is huge. I'm talking 2-car garage easily. This thing is the size of 2 automobiles. And he had it just surrounded with hundreds of stormtroopers and the whole 9 yards. And obviously that's the ultimate dream of any 1/6 scale collector. But where in the world would you put something to that scale? Kind of reminds me of the company, I think it was Red Diorama, that makes the scaffolding or the stairs or the pieces of the crane from Iron Man 3. And they have on display this assemblage of all of these little crane pieces and the crate, the shipping crate that Mark 38 Igor busts through. And this thing is just huge. When they put it together, I would say easily it's 8 feet or so tall by probably 8 to 10 to 12 feet, 8 to 12 feet in diameter, left to right, width and depth. You would need a room just to store this, and they have all the Iron Man figures flying around it. It's kind of like, my pseudo Malibu beach house that Tony has with his garage. I mean, literally all I have is just the garage area, and that's not even placed to scale. And then I've kind of recreated below that. You have the wine cellar, which is totally taken out of my recreation, and then I have a couple of rows of Iron Legion House Party Protocol back here. And even with that, I mean, the size of room that's required just to display this simple collection of this is is it takes up as much space as a couch would, and then to the ceiling. So, you walk into an apartment or a room or something, and there's no furniture in it. It's empty. It's big. You're looking at it. It's like, oh, look, we're 10 feet by 10 feet or whatever, for a small room, or 15 feet by 15 feet for a living room or something to that effect. And then all of a sudden you plop a couch in it, and a love seat, and an easy boy, and your coffee table, and your end tables, and the entertainment center. You got your television over here, and all of a sudden your walking space is down to just area just to walk around and sit down. And that's what happens when you start collecting these things. So where am I even going to put this? I have no idea. I'm happy to see that it's not as big as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be much deeper, and it's not. I have here as well, speaking of the 1/6 scale pieces, unfinished projects or whatever, a little, let's see if I can get this without destroying anything here. Get this down to where you are. Right over here is I think it's 1/6 scale. I don't know exactly the scale of it, but it's a Camaro that I fully intend to have painted like my yellow and black Transformer Camaro. And next to that is this little Formula / Indy, I don't know, Grand Prix vehicle that I fully intend to turn into a vehicle that Tony used in Iron Man 2. So, I mean, the size of those are immense as well. And I've not turned them into display pieces. This Landspeeder is similarly sized. And I don't have any idea where to put those guys. So I don't know where I'm going to put this Landspeeder. But I certainly am proud to own it. I don't remember how many Jazz said that he made, how many Juice said that he made of these. I know it's limited. A few hundred, if even, of that many. I thought there was going to be a plaque assigned with it, and there's not. But that's fine. I mean, no one else has made this. There's no question about where it came from. So, that's where that is. Wow. Are you going to get the D07 FY? I love the JoJo reference. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, the DO. I would love to get just the DO. This Ray is totally for sale if any of you want her, by the way. Don't give two beans about her. I bought this Ray only to get the BB-8. And then, of course, the BB-8 was released later with the BB-9E. So I have both of the BB-8s. One's kind of brownish and one's orange. Don't know why. Maybe the brownish one was dirty. But I took this Ray, and I hated that they used an articulated figure with joints when she had such cute little knees. So I put a Fison body in this, and this is a Fison Ray, and I love her as such in a Fison body. So it's just totally seamless, and all the way down to the toes. It's a seamless shoes. I started working on the laces on the boots here. Did you see they had these plastic laces and I didn't much care for them? So I started literally cutting that up and putting real thread in there for the laces. And I'll probably finish that as well. I don't know if it's the project that I want to start working on in the second one. Never got around to that. But I have absolutely zero connection to this Ray. Zero. And would sell her in a heartbeat. I wouldn't be giving her away. Some of you guys, I love you all, but some of you contacted me and offered me such ridiculously low prices for my figures. I'm not giving my figures away because, I've reached a financial difficulty in my life right now. This Landspeeder was paid for months ago, a long time before my wife was ever put into the hospital. So Don't think for one second that I hate to be in a position where I'm trying to raise money and then having to answer for a figure showing up at the house. This Landspeeder was paid a long time ago. I canceled my Rocket and my Winter Soldier that I made a deposit on, so I ended up losing my deposit on them. So that sucks always. But I just didn't have the money to make a purchase on them, and I really wanted the Winter Soldier because he had the dissolving arm, and of course Rocket, you know. So no, I'm not. I'm not getting out of the business. I'm not liquidating these because I have no attachment to them. That Mark 47 I will buy again, and I probably will end up having to pay a premium price for them, no doubt about it. Um, I sold two Spider-Man figures through eBay, and both of them were not paid for, and I don't understand that. I don't know whether the people who purchased them were subscribers of mine. If you guys were part of the family, the two of you that bought them, if you were, I don't know why you didn't pay for it. The prices I think were very fair. You won it through auction. It wasn't a preconceived price where I'd said this is what you were paying for it. I mean, you bid on it. You won it in auction. Don't understand why you didn't pay for it at that point. So I relisted the Scarlet Spider and I put them down as a buy it now or best offer. Um, and no one has hit on it yet. I've not relisted the other one yet. If I'm hoping that the guy, I just opened up the non-paying bidder option on it yesterday. You know, these things sold 2 weeks ago almost. Sunday night, Monday morning is when they were both sold. And I didn't, I mean, I gave the one guy a week before even opening up the non-paying bidder on the Scarlet Spider, and he didn't even respond at all at any communication whatsoever. The movie promo edition Spider-Man, the winner of the auction, asked if he could have a week to pay for it. So I said sure, and so he was supposed to pay for it on Wednesday. He didn't. I contacted him on Wednesday, and he said he'll pay for it on Thursday. He didn't. So on Friday I just opened up a non-paying bidder on it as well. So I'm still $2,000 short of my goal. I've paid the debt with money I didn't have to pay, and I need to get that money back. So as I was kind of hinting at, I'll be in a better financial position in a year, and I totally full on intend of getting the Mark 47s back. And who even knows what would happen in this house in a year's time? I don't know what my wife's condition will even be in a year. So, because a lot of things are going down, if you can imagine. Anyhow, yeah, this Rey, I would so happily get rid of her. I have no passion for her. Now, having said that, Rogue One was an amazing movie as far as I was concerned. Jyn Erso, oh my God, what a story! It's such a crying shame that it was literally a one-off story. And we knew that going into it. Before I even seen the movie, no one told me anything about it. I was very happy to be able to go see the movie. I told everyone I worked with, don't tell me anything about this movie yet, because I hadn't seen it when it first came out. I didn't get to see it until later on, 2 or 3 months after it had been released, when it was still in the theaters. I seen it in the theaters, but it had been a while. It had been out for a while before I actually had an opportunity to go see it. It was late January, maybe even February. I think it came out on Christmas, I think of 2015. I don't remember. Anyhow, I knew obviously that it was a one-off. I knew obviously that no one was going to survive it because we had no reference to any of these characters anywhere. But I was totally shocked when they just killed, everybody. But Jyn Erso, I loved Jyn Erso. I loved all the characters in Rogue One, and I thought Rogue One was a great movie, and it shows that you can kill characters and still do it in a capacity to not necessarily turn them into, you're not dismissing them. You're not saying, who cares of this character? These are characters that were loved. There's zero passion, love, concern, care, or anything for Rey. Jyn, I fell in love with. Rey, they told me I had to love. if that makes any sense. If you're a writer of a story, if you can't get me excited about your character and you keep shoving the character down my throat, I'm going to rebel it in the first place. It's like telling a kid, hey, you got to eat your asparagus. You have to eat your broccoli. You've got to eat your fruits and your vegetables when they'd much rather have candy. You know, if you can't get your child to eat the vegetables without necessarily having to cram it down their throat, they're never really going to love it. And that's kind of how I am with Rey. There's not been any attachment to her whatsoever. Why was I automatically forced to love this person? You know, why was she put as the pivotal point of it with zero reason to have any care, concern, compassion, or anything for her? However, Jin was kind of put into the same scenario, but for some reason, the way they wrote her, I gave a damn about her. You know, at the end of the movie, I was really hoping that there was some way that they could get off of that planet. And, you know, they never really give you a full-on answer, but you know what happened. You know exactly what happened. You know, she became stardust. She bit the dust, literally. And but anyhow, I didn't buy this Rey to get the Rey. And I did turn her into a Fison figure because I was motivated to do such. And just to see if I could do it, and I think I did a pretty good job of it. I had to tint and dye the skin to get her to match her head because the Hot Toys figure is definitely a different shade than the Bison figures were. And I love her cute little knees. I mean, she's if you take her sleeves off of her arms, the only joint that's visible is her hands, and that's how it is on all the Bison figures. But I used the one with the seamless ankles as well, which wasn't necessary because she's in boots. I could have used ankles with feet, but I didn't. But anyhow, I have her back here. She's not in like a box of shame. She's not like hidden away. But no, there's like zero connection to her, for real. Now, having said all that, one of you all, and I love you very much, you sent me a package in the mail, and I received it P.O. Box. You told me about it last week. I went out and picked it up specifically, and it is here. And the box says it's a Jyn Erso. Now, I haven't opened it yet. I want to do it live, and I don't remember who it was that sent it me. Their name is on it, and I don't know whether or not you wanted me to open it live, whether you wanted me to open it in private, whether you wanted me to tell everybody who you are, who sent this to me. I don't know what to do with it. So I'm sending this plea out to you right now. I think I'm going to wait till next week, and I'm going to open it then. During this next week, you who sent it, if you can contact me and tell me what it is you desire. Do you want me to open it live? You want me to pre-open it and then go over it live? I'm not even sure what even is in there. It may just be a box of rocks. I don't have any idea. It's in a Hot Toys box that says it's Jyn Erso. I fully intend to open it. With that in mind as well, if y'all want to drop me a line, put a stamp on an envelope and just send me a note, I will gladly open it next week. We'll have a P.O. box opening. And send me artwork, send me drawings, send me anything you want. Send me glitter. I don't care. I will be very happy to go to the P.O. box within the next week, before next Saturday, to get anything you decide you want to mail me. I mean, postage stamp is what, 42 cents, 49 cents or something? I don't even have any idea what it costs to mail anything anymore. But yeah, I would love to get a Dio. I would love to get it. I've ordered the Power Droid. What was it? It's called, I forget what it's called. The little blue box Power Droid that we see the Jawas have. I've ordered that. I've often thought about getting the Bounty Hunters in regards to that. Nice little collection of them, including all the Boba Fett's. There's the IG-88 and the, I forget what it is. It looks like a C-3PO, but it has a different head. So I've often thought about tracking these down. And I would gladly do that. I just never have done that. But I would like to have a Dio or D0. I'm not sure what he actually is. But I've seen he's being sold with a Rey. And I don't need another Rey. Certainly don't need another Rey. So, I don't know.
maybe I would consider possibly buying the figure and just immediately turning around and selling the Rey just for anything I could get out of her. I have a Rey, and I have zero attachment to her for real. I see the Fison body complements her in front section. Oh yeah, I highlighted that even more so to bring that out. Why not, right? Let her show off her assets. But she comes with some neat stuff. This Rey does, no doubt about it. See if we put any light on her. If it helps anything. They, some people have asked Juice to make the not really a speeder bike, but she drives like this huge engine bike thing. And Hot Toys showed it like as if they were going to make it, and they never got around to it. And people have asked Juice to make one. So that would work if they were to do that. She would look good on that. But, she's just not. I have no connection to the figure. And she is what she is, for whatever that is. So, if any of y'all have ever interested in her, I'd be happy to pass her on to you. She's just not, she's nobody to me. With so many powerful figures or characters in the whole Star Wars story. Darth Vader. I mean, what's the Anakin's Padawan? I'm trying to remember her name. I mean, there are so many other. If I were to collect the figures of Star Wars, there's so many other figures that have so much of a better story that I would gladly get. I mean, hell, a Twi'lek would be more welcome here than this Rey is. Only because it's a weak character in the first place. We know nothing about her, have absolutely zero. I can't get this thing to stay in there. I'm going to have to glue it in, I am assuming. I'm sitting here ranting and harping on poor Rey. Piss poor writing. That's what these last 3 Star Wars movies have been. Or 2. I don't think the 3rd one's out. The Rise of the Skywalker. I mean, they brought someone in who knows nothing about the movies to tell the story that we've been waiting for 40 years for. It's like, I've not seen Game of Thrones. I would love to watch them. I just haven't. I don't have HBO. I probably will one of these days track down the Game of Thrones and watch them. But from my understanding, the final season was a huge letdown to like all the fans. Same thing with Lost. I loved the Lost series when that was on. I watched it every week, sitting on the edge of my seat, waiting for another episode of Lost to come out to complete the story, to tell us what was going on, to paint the full picture of what we were even seeing or trying to understand of what was even happening in the television show. And then that final episode was like, what? The things that they revealed, the things that they claimed were going on in that final episode made zero sense in regards to the whole rest of the entire story. There were things that people had asked in the show, trying to figure out what was going on, and it was debunked in the show as, no, that's not the case, because if that was the case, then X would be happening. And then they tried to tell us that that's what was really going on all along. And it's like, you already debunked this. You already said that that wasn't the case. And from my understanding, Game of Thrones had a similar ending where it had absolutely to do with what the rest of the show was. And now they're doing the same thing with Star Wars. You've followed a franchise for most of your life. I was 11 years old when this show came out, when the movie was made. And I seen it for the first time. back then in the theaters. And you know, now that to see them totally destroy everything that I've known about this movie, this franchise, this series, and just handle it very haphazardly, it's piss poor. It's like Michael Bay with the Transformer franchise. You know, the first movie was great, the second movie was okay, the third movie was meh. By the time you got around to the fifth movie, it's like, and he supposedly has passion for it. I'm like, no, that passion's long gone, dude. The new Bumblebee movie that came out brought back some passion, but boy, they sure did totally muck it all up. You know what I mean? Golly. You know, there's always the problem with when you have a great movie trying to make a follow-up to it, or even a book trying to make a follow-up to it, you never can seem to get it better than the original was. But just to handle stuff with reckless abandon and no concern, care, compassion is just terrible. Buyers offering ridiculous prices is quite normal. I have an eBay spot and people offer $200 for a die-cast Iron Man. Yeah, people are on drugs. Yeah, I'm trying to pay a bill. I'm not trying to turn a profit, but I'm not trying to lose my ass on it either. You know what I mean? No, I'm not selling these figures because I'm not a scalper. I'm not a flipping these figures. I never intended ever to sell any of them. I wholly intended to die and leave them to my heir to do whatever they want with it, and just trying to find a way to help with these medical bills. It's the only reason I even sold that Mark 47 and listed the Spider-Man, and I just get kind of insulted and kind of torqued off when people treat this the way that they are, if that makes any sense. Rey is as interesting as a bag of rocks. Yeah, there you go. Ahsoka. Yeah, is that how you say her name? Ahsoka. I can truthfully say that I think I may have seen 2 episodes of the Clone Wars. And I guess it was on like several seasons. And just from what I've seen of those 2 episodes, I found her to be more of an interesting figure than Rey. If that makes any sense whatsoever. And I know nothing about the character, except that she was a Padawan of Darth Vader, of Anakin Skywalker, which is a whole interesting thing because there's no reference to her anywhere in any of the movies. And I don't understand that, on how someone that he was training couldn't be referenced again. And George Lucas wrote these. If I remember correctly, the reason that the Clone Wars came about as a cartoon was, from my understanding of the whole thing. All right, so when George gave us Star Wars, and that was the name of the first movie, it was called Star Wars. And then he gave us The Empire Strikes Back, and then he gave us Return of the Jedi. He told us right after Star Wars. I mean, literally, here I am in elementary school, in 6th grade, reading every piece of equipment that I could, and every piece of literature that I could get on Star Wars, all the fan fiction, all the interviews. I collected everything that there was back then. And there was an article I was reading where they were interviewing George Lucas. This is all the way back in 1977 or 78. I don't remember what year it was exactly. And they were asking him about the whole storyline, everything. And he literally said way back then that it was essentially 9 stories. But, he said, the first 3 didn't have anything interesting, or they just weren't very good stories. So he decided to tell the story beginning with the 4th story, which is what we got. So I knew all the way back in 1977 or 78, I don't remember when it was, that this was story 4, and that there were 3 stories before it, which weren't very interesting. He'd said at that point in an interview that I read that Obi-Wan Kenobi killed Darth Vader, his dad. He didn't give a name of Anakin Skywalker at that time, if I remember correctly. but he stated that Obi-Wan Kenobi killed him. He stated in this interview that he killed him in a lightsaber battle on the edge of a volcano, if I remember correctly. Now, again, this is 40 plus years ago that I read this, but that stuck with me. So for all these years, I was going with that knowledge throughout the remainder of the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and then in 2000 when that first movie came out, or the second movie, or the third movie actually, where he became Darth Vader. And it wasn't necessarily on the edge of a volcano, but I was already familiar with the story, and I knew that the movies weren't going to be that good because he said originally when he made them. The reason I started with the fourth movie because it was an interesting, good story, and the first three are not. But we wanted the prequels, we begged for them, so he made them. And the first one was an absolute disaster. I don't like the first one at all. I'm really confused about Anakin's mother. I don't understand that whole thing. What was she doing? Was she a slave? Was she owned? I mean, who was his dad? There's all these different questions that were never even answered or even explained, and we're just kind of thrust into this. And it was like, we need to tell this story of this little kid, Anakin, and it was the poor actor. Golly, it's not his fault for the creation of the writing of it, and it's so easy to lash out at these actors and actresses. It's so easy to lash out at Rey. I don't have a problem with the actress, okay? I do have a problem with the actress from Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel. I do have a problem with Brie Larson. But I don't have a problem with Rey. I don't have a problem with the actor who played young Anakin. I don't have a problem with these actors. They were just put into shitty roles. That's the fact of it. So after seeing the first movie, from my understanding, when the first movie was made, it was such a disaster that nobody really wanted to give him any money to make more movies. So from my understanding, the reason the Clone Wars were animated was because he just couldn't find anyone that was willing to give them the green light on regards to a live-action Star Wars of the Clone Wars stories. So that's why it was animated, not for any other reason. From my understanding, and I may be totally wrong on this, that was why the Clone Wars was an animated cartoon series instead of a 2-hour movie or 3 2-hour movies or whatever. But Ahsoka was very interesting to me, and I really, I'm curious what happened to her. I'm curious what her story is. I'm curious about the whole Padawan thing. I'm curious about all of that. I don't give two rats about Rey. Don't even care. When the first movie came out with her, I was like, who is she? Where's she from? Why is she here? What's her importance? And they decided not to tell us any of that. It really upset me when they didn't tell us any of that of Anakin. You know what I mean? And Anakin was kind of shoved down our throats, but we wanted to know a little bit more about Anakin because he'd been with us since Star Wars A New Hope, which is what they literally turned the movie's name into later for clarification. But we've been with Darth Vader, we've been with Anakin all this time. So we kind of wanted a story on him, but giving us his story just gave us more questions. And Rey, we never got nothing on. Nothing. Absolutely zero on. You know? And so why would I have any care, concern, compassion, or desire about this person at all? For real. Why am I supposed to like her? How is she more powerful than Luke Skywalker? How is she more powerful than a Sith Lord, Kylo Ren? It just doesn't add up. How can Yoda sit here and tell her that she doesn't need to know about anything? You know, she can just destroy all the books and the writings and all that. It just doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. I guess maybe they're trying to tell us it's okay to start burning books. Stop your education. You don't need to learn anything. Burn them books. Censor all the speech. Is that what they're trying to do? They're trying to get that thought into your head that that's okay to do? That's not okay to do, by the way. Oh, let's see. The real problem with the last season of Game of Thrones is it felt rushed, needed more episodes. And I've not seen a single episode of Game of Thrones. And I'm sure I would love it. But I've heard a lot of y'all complain about Game of Thrones. It felt like the writing gave up on all the story they built and just half-assed it. It's exactly the same thing that they did with Lost. The final episode of Lost, that last season, and especially that final episode of Lost. I loved Lost. I would watch it again. I've watched it every week when it was out live back in the day, and when that last episode came out, I was like, really, 7 years or however long I've been watching this. This is what you give me for real. Um, what was the point of all the prophecies and build up? Barely any of that paid off. I'm assuming you're talking about Game of Thrones. I remember they kept talking about winter is coming, winter is coming, winter is coming. Wow, George Lucas back in the 70s knew the Phantom Menace would suck Donkey Ball. It's 100%. 100%. Exactly what he said. I kid you not. I remember that when I was a kid. Like I said, 1977 or 78. I don't remember what it was. I was reading an article. He said that. He said that there was 3 movies. He said it was 9 movies, 9 stories. And there were 3 stories before this. And they just weren't interesting enough to make into a thing. He literally had said that. I don't remember verbiage, and I don't remember what magazine it was that I was reading it in. I think it was some kid-oriented magazine or teenager-oriented magazine. I don't remember. There was so much stuff on Star Wars back then. The whole world was Star Wars crazy, if you can imagine, back then, because there was nothing that would compare really to what that movie was when it first came out back then. There was nothing that compared. So it's kind of like, you have to throw props where props are due. Jaws, when that came out, was an amazing story. When Jurassic Park came out, oh, amazing, amazing movie. Independence Day, when that came out, remarkable, remarkable movie. Obviously, Endgame, the Avengers Endgame, people want to talk smack about it. They're trying to say that it doesn't deserve the placement that it had. But holy smokes, when that movie came out, the culmination and the storytelling and the finality of it and the big whole circle and everything that just went through, it just really went through. So when Star Wars came out in '77, we were Star Wars crazy, and there was so much information out there. I mean, it was just being given to. I mean, I remember talking my mom into buying, I think it was Wonder bread because of the Star Wars cards that came with it. The merchandising with the movie was just amazing. I collected all the little Star Wars cards. I mean, it was amazing. It was simply amazing. You're right, the more info we get about Dave and Dan, the more I get mad. I don't know who Dave and Dan are. Which Jedi Force ghost would I like to see in Rise of Skywalker? That was another thing that kind of really bothered me. When George went through and remastered or fixed movies 4, 5, and 6 digitally, at the end of Return of the Jedi, when Anakin was a ghost, it was old man Anakin. It was who it was that we've seen. I forget his name. Dave Probst, I think, is coming up to my mind right now. I may be wrong. But that was the ghost that we've seen. It was old Obi-Wan Alec Guinness. It was Yoda. And it was old Darth Vader. And then when they went through and they started digitizing it, they started replacing these ghosts. And Anakin got replaced with the young Anakin. And I had a problem with that for a couple of reasons. One, because when he died, he wasn't young. He was old. And two, it was just like a complete insult to the actor that had originally portrayed that. It's kind of like also when they started removing the screw-ups in the live action models or whatever, or the special effects that they had used and replace it with CGI, digital effects of these spaceships flying around. It's like a kick in the teeth to these modelers who created this illusion of space flight because that was all that they had available to them in 1977 when they made these movies. And he went through and digitally fixed it. And yeah, it was neat that he was able to create it, but it was just a kick in the teeth to these artists who made these, or these actors who portrayed these. And I had a problem with that. I really had a real problem with that. You know what I mean? It just it wasn't right. It's not right to do that. So which one would I want as a ghost? Obi-Wan, I guess. He really is. You know, there's so much story involved with him. I mean, he really should he should be the ghost, if any at all. If you were to make a ghost Jedi, Obi-Wan. I kind of hated that Samuel L. Jackson's character was killed so quickly. That would have been interesting. You know, he demanded that purple lightsaber. He demanded it. That was his color. He chose that. I want to see my favorite Jedi, Qui-Gon. You're Obi-Wan, you're Yoda, you're Count Dooku. Did you ever see that fan theory that Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be the Sith Lord? It's pretty interesting. Check it out on YouTube, and they sell a very good story about Jar Jar being the Sith Lord, and it explains a lot. There was such a backlash against Jar Jar, and I hated Jar Jar when I first seen him. But after seeing this fan's theory that Jar Jar was actually the Sith Lord, ooh, that makes it much better. If you're watching the Phantom Menace, knowing that Jar Jar is a Sith Lord, it makes it so much more of an interesting. Jar Jar becomes so much more of an interesting character. And if that was the case, which this person who makes the video brings up a lot of compelling evidence, which gives the indication that it truthfully was the case, and that George Lucas had every intention of making Jar Jar the bad guy. If he had told us that instead of it being the big reveal, it would have been more interesting. But supposedly that's how Count Dooku came about, was because it was supposed to be Jar Jar fighting Yoda. Jar Jar was the bad guy, not Count Dooku. And that's how Count Dooku even came about, and that's why there's no reference to Count Dooku in the previous movies, because Count Dooku was hastily thrown into this, according to this fan theory, which I have come to agree with. Count Dooku was thrown in there only to continue the story that should have been Jar Jar's story. So Count Dooku should have been Jar Jar. It's really interesting when you watch that and look into that and see what you think about that. Which Obi-Wan would I like to see? Original recipe Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, or Ewan McGregor sexy Obi-Wan? Well, they made Alec Guinness was the original Ghost. You know what I mean? Ewan McGregor did a great job bringing Obi-Wan to life. Really did. Can't argue that one bit. But no, for Ghost Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness. Because that's who it was. It was the old guy. You know, you think about if you were to believe in heaven, which I believe that there's a heaven or some type of a place like that. And one of the things that we're told when we ascend into heaven is that we're going to see people that we knew, or other people that are there. And I have to wonder, you know, which Abraham Lincoln would be there? You know what I mean? How old Abraham Lincoln would we see? Abraham Lincoln went into politics when he was a young man, so he'd been going through this. You know, there's images of Abraham Lincoln available from his 20s. You know, when he was senators of Illinois, I think is where he was from. So I mean, obviously we're most familiar with Abraham Lincoln when he was the president in his latter years of life. You know, which is it that we would see when we get into heaven? And that's that same question of, do we want Ewan McGregor or do we want Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan in The Ghost? You know, who is your Obi-Wan? It's kind of like Talladega Nights, I think, was the movie where they were doing like a spoof on NASCAR racing, and they were talking about praying to Jesus, and which Jesus is it that you pray to? Are you praying to baby Jesus? Are you praying to the Jesus on the cross? Are you praying to the walking on the water Jesus? And it was so funny. Like one of the guys was saying, I pray to baby Jesus. Another one's like, no, I pray to the Jesus going to the cross. And it's so interesting. Who is it that you have in your mind whenever you envision these things of what is your ideal situation? It's kind of like the song that the Buggles made back in the day. Very famous song, the first song played on MTV. Video killed the radio star. If you've never seen somebody, you hear them on the radio, you paint this visual image in your mind of what they look like. This is what you have created to represent what this individual is. And it's so interesting when you then see them, you're like, man, you look nothing like I had ever imagined. It's really weird how we do that, how we will create in our mind a personification or a representation of something that we see or read about. When you're reading a novel, you'll get a description of somebody having red hair or being tall or muscular or long hair or thin or athletic or whatever, and you'll have a vision that will come in your mind. If there's no image that goes along with that, the two of us are not going to have the same image. It's really interesting how that works. So that goes along with the same line of who do you want for your Obi-Wan? Do you want Ewan McGregor or do you want Alec Guinness? And I guess Alec, because he was, in my opinion, my Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's like Superman. Who's your Superman? Every generation has a Superman. I really like the gosh darn it, I forget his name now. Christopher Reeves. Really like Christopher Reeves. I think, however, my Superman is Dean Cain. Truthfully, he's the Superman that I really associate with, and which really was the least Superman of all the Supermen, if that makes any sense. My Batman, same thing. Michael Keaton, probably Michael Keaton. Christian Bale, Adam West. Who's your Joker? Heath Ledger, Jack Nicklaus? These are really tough questions. Who's your Professor X? Patrick Stewart or McAvee, right? If you're not first, you're last. Don't remember that line. So, anyhow, back to the unboxing next week. If you guys send me anything, I'm definitely going to open it up in a big P.O. box thing. Like I said, drop me anything. A card, letter, artwork, I don't care. A figure, send me anything you want. And if you don't want me mentioning who you are, then let me know that as well. So I don't want to out anybody who doesn't want to be outed, if that makes any sense whatsoever. My mouth is totally dry. I need some of my coffee here. Mmm. So, as you can see, with everyone standing around this Landspeeder, it still tells a story. So imagine Obi-Wan sitting in here, Luke Skywalker sitting here, a droid sitting on the back. It makes a story up. It doesn't take up as much space as I thought it would. I need to get bigger display cases. Anyhow, I need display cases. Right now I'm using bookshelves, and bookshelves are not deep. I think a bookshelf is 12 inches deep. And I think the display cases are 18 inches deep, or thereabouts. So it is a figure that will be displayed. I will probably put it back in the box for the time being, because I have no place to display it, and I don't have an Obi-Wan. I don't have any way of properly displaying it yet. I don't have the figures for it, and I will continue to look for a C-3PO that I can bust up. And if nothing else, I'll probably get a Sideshow C-3po. If push comes to shove, I'll probably just drop another couple $100, another one of these guys, literally just to bust him up and to stick him in here. Put his legs and put him so he can sit, and just to have him so that I could have that as part of the display. Truthfully, if push comes to shove, if all else fails, I won't do it to this guy, or I'll do it to this guy and maybe not the other one. The finer of the two I will keep, and the less fine of the two will definitely be turned into a figure to fit into the back of the Landspeeder. And I will be tracking down a Luke Skywalker and an Obi-Wan. I've got a bunch of astromechs. Uh-oh. Can't get the little magnet to stick on here anymore. Oh, there we go. Couldn't get his little restraining bolt to stick onto him. I have a bunch of astromechs. I love the astromechs. I've shown you guys before. I'll show them to you again. Shit on this over here. Here's my astromechs. C-3po will go back here, but got all these are sideshows except for that one, which is a hot toy, and they're both called R2d2 Deluxes. This one is the exclusive version R2d2 Deluxe, which comes with 6 of these little arms. They both come with a little serving trays from the barge. Jabba's barge, and that one was the deluxe without exclusive version. The exclusive version came with the brown dirty feet, and the non-exclusive version came with clean feet. And then the Hot Toys one came with nothing. He just lights up and beeps. And then we have the prototype droid, and then I forget what these are called, R2Q something or other or whatever, the black shiny one and the matte black one. And then down here are the BBs and the R5s right there. And then this little guy came with one of the Stormtroopers. I don't remember what he is. And then, of course, the mouse droid came with one of the black ones. I don't remember if he came with the BB9 or the R5. I don't remember. But those are my astromechs. And I've got the other Hot Toys one on order that has all of every single attachment that he ever came with. The only one I don't remember it being there was the little rocket packs that came off of his sides as he would fly about. I don't remember that being in the little Hot Toys version of it. Ray looks boring next to the Landspeeder. Ray has no story as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? I never got the feeling of her being an orphan. I never got the feeling of I never wanted to see her succeed. I never felt like, let's wish her out of her trouble. Let's help her get to a better position. You never sold me on giving a damn about her. You never made me feel for 1 second that she needed my attention or that I should care about who she is, her dilemma, or anything. She didn't seem to give a damn about anybody. She didn't seem to have anyone that was to any consequence to her, if that makes any sense. She didn't have anybody. She didn't care about anyone. So what made me think that she was anyone that was going to be worth caring for or having it as well? You know, there's just nothing there. She's a nothing. She's don't know anything about her. And I didn't care whether or not she was rescued or whether she got herself off that planet. Didn't give a damn. You know, it's kind of like, for instance, when you go to the grocery store, you have the person that checks out your groceries, and you may actually see the same person multiple times if you go to the same grocery store. And you'll get to the point where you'll have some type of a rapport with them. You'll look forward to seeing them. You may even ask them a few questions about themselves. What are you doing this weekend? Do you have any kids? You know, you look like you're tired. You know, are you getting off anytime soon? I like your hair. You know, these are things that you'll start having a conversation with the person as you see them more frequently. If it's someone that you never have met before, though, you have a cordial type of a communication that you'll have with them. Here you are, you got your groceries up on this conveyor belt. You've never seen this person ever in your life. They say to you, "Hi, how are you doing?" They don't give a damn how you really are doing. They don't even know who you are. What do you say? "I'm fine, thank you." You may even turn around and say back to them, "How are you?" And they may tell you, "I'm fine," or they may go into this rant about how their bunions are hurting on their feet because they've been standing too long and they've been to work for 7 hours and they can't wait to get off because they've got someplace else to go and they'll be to do this and soak their feet because they're really tired and they're worried about their kid who is sick at home. You may get that as an answer. Now, this may cause you to have some type of an emotional attachment to them. Or they may not give you any answer at all. "Yeah, I'm fine too." And that's it. And that'll be the extent of what you got in knowledge of them. And when you go back to the grocery store the next time, if all you got out of them was, "Yeah, I'm fine too," you don't care whether you bump into them again or not. You're fine, they're fine, you're going about your deal, there's no relationship whatsoever. But the person that decided that they wanted to share with you for whatever reason about their aching bunion and how they can't wait to soak their feet and their child that there's something is going on with them and they're concerned with their child, they've been working a long day and they're really tired, that actually stuck with you. And that may actually be part of the conversation the next time you see them. "How's your kid doing? How are your feet doing? Have you been working long today?" You know, so you have some type of a backstory to the person that you even care about. We got nothing with Ray. "How are you, Ray? Who the hell are you? Where the hell are you? Why are you in this position that you're in? Why do I want you off Tatooine? Why do I even care if you find a length of a lightsaber? Big frickin' whoop. Who even cares? What's your attachment to the lightsaber?" Don't know, don't care. Because you've not told me anything about her. You just shoved her right down my throat. This is who you're going to have to be dealing with from now on. We're not telling you. Don't care. You don't need to know. Well, if I don't need to know, then I don't need to care either. If it's on a need-to-know basis and I don't need to know, then why do I even care? If you don't have the time, the care, the passion, the desire to tell the story of this person you want me to be interested in, if you don't care about her, how am I supposed to care about her? If you don't care enough about her to put her into a story that explains who she is and why I should care about her, then why do I have to put any passion into her? If you can't take the time to tell me about this person, then why do I even take the time to even care about her? For real. And that's kind of what you guys did with Ray. The writer, what was his name? Ryan somebody created these last 3 stories. He doesn't give a damn about Ray. He does not give a damn about her. He doesn't know her story. I guarantee you, if you were to put him on the spot and ask him, "What's Ray's backstory? Who's her mom and dad? Where did she come from? How did she end up where she was? Why is it that she has all of this?" If his answer is going to be, "You got to wait for the 3rd movie to see what that is," oh, give me a frickin' break. No. Just as I talked about before, George knew the first three movies are crap. He had a pretty good idea of who Anakin Skywalker was. He didn't give us the name of Anakin back then. He said that Darth Vader and Obi-Wan got into a duel, a lightsaber duel on the edge of a volcano, and Obi-Wan knocked Darth Vader into it. We knew this. We don't know anything about Rey. But we're forced to have to deal with it, right? That's piss poor writing. Piss poor storytelling. People like to complain about Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. When that movie came out back in 1980, whatever it was an amazing story. The reason people complain about this movie is because of the narrative. Now, they don't complain that they use the narrative. They complain because it's lazy writing. If you have to explain something to me in a narrative, you didn't do a very good job telling the story in the first place. I should be able to understand what's going on with the story without having someone have to read me an entire monologue or a narrative of what's going on. If you have to explain something to me as a sidebar or as a side note or as an afterthought, then you didn't tell the story the first time well enough. That was the problem with Blade Runner. When they then turned around and made a version of the Blade Runner without the story in it, people were saying, oh yeah, this is so much better because we don't have Decker telling us the story. No, it's not so much better because you have no explanation of the story. You only know of the story because he told you of the story. It would have been better if the filming or the actors or the scenarios or the story could be told without being told the story. The reason we go to a movie is because we want to be entertained and we want to see what's going on. But we want to be able to know what's going on by what we see. We don't want to have somebody having to read to us the entire story in order for us to understand what's going on. And that's that problem. It's piss poor writing that causes that. If you can't tell the story visually, cinematically, in what it is that we're seeing or feeling or experiencing, and you got to tell the story, then you didn't do a very good job making the movie. That's the fact of it. And they didn't do a very good job with these last Star Wars movies because there's no story there that makes a hill of sense. Nothing makes sense. Period. If you didn't know the beginnings of the first 6 movies, you would totally be lost. Totally. So whenever they're like, oh, we didn't write these movies for you fans. It's a different story. We're telling our version of it. You never told the story in the first place. You picked up what was handed to you, and you just went on just rambling a bunch of nonsense without ever retelling the story. The problem with Spider-Man, for instance. Every time Spider-Man comes about, we have to be told the story. Any true Spider-Man fan knows the story. But you still have to address the story so that you understand what is going on. That was the big problem in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Spider-Man Civil War and Spider-Man Homecoming. How much of the story do we need to tell again in order for you to be able to grasp it? Can you accept and understand that this is the Spider-Man without having to be told about him being bit by the radioactive spider and the struggle with that and whatever else and the death of Uncle Ben? Can you tell the story without having to tell the story? And I think in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man, they did a pretty good job of doing that without having to retell the story. But every other Spider-Man movie or story has to have the origin story retold. He gets bit, teenager gets bit by a radioactive spider, becomes the ability of proportionate strength of a spider, with spider sense, and he's a genius. And because of his lack of responsibility or lack of action in regards to stopping an incident, this person killed Uncle Ben, who was his father figure. Do we need to be told that story again? Can the story be told and understood without having to tell that? Then you've done a good job writing the story. If you're unable to tell us who this person is without having to sit there and say, here's a monologue where we're going to explain the whole thing, you didn't do a very good story. Or, with the last movies of Star Wars, if you didn't explain the story at all, but are going to sit back on your haunches and say, we didn't write this for you, we're not following that, then give us a story that makes sense. Because you've not yet done that. You really haven't. And George kind of did the same thing with The Phantom Menace, where we didn't get any real story of Anakin. All of a sudden, they're there testing his mitochondrials to see what his force power was, and that he was too old to be trained as a Jedi, but he was off anything about what he was doing as a slave boy or whatever it was on Tatooine. I think that's where he started as well, was Tatooine, and living with his mother, who was obviously indentured to this guy as well. What happened to his mother when he left her? I mean, did he go from being a slave of one person to being a slave of the Jedi? I mean, it really doesn't make much sense at all. And, if you can't tell that story, then you have no passion for your characters. And if you have no passion for your characters, then why should I? If you don't give a damn about your characters, why should I? Why should I buy your book, watch your movie, hear your story, if you don't care about the person that you're writing or telling the story about? If you have no passion or care about them, why should I? The Peter Tingle. I love that. I was kind of concerned about Marissa Tomei playing Aunt May at first, but I 100% accepted her totally. She goes against the stereotypical Aunt May that we've been told for so long, and I was kind of like, I'm really looking forward to the white-haired, gray-haired, whatever, the older Aunt May, and she just wasn't there. But she 100% nailed it, and she ran with it, and it worked great. It really worked well. It really worked well. I'm really pleased with the MCU Spider-Man. I really enjoyed Tom Holland. Peter Tingle. I love that. I love that. So, guys, I don't know. I think I've had you on for quite a while now, pushing 2 hours, and I really appreciate you guys spending your time with me. And I hope you've enjoyed this Landspeeder. I'm happy to have it. It is quite an impressive piece. It's big. It tells a story. It works with what it was I'm looking for. The quality on it is really lacking. I expected more. But it is a Landspeeder that I would have never crafted. It is a Landspeeder I've never seen anybody else ever craft in 1/6 scale. So that's the trade-off. You know what I mean? I'm happy to have it. I wish it was better. I'm not going to send it back. I am going to display it. And, if you guys ordered one and you haven't got it yet, this is what you have to look forward to. If you didn't order one, we're on the fence of whether or not you get it. Now you have a better decision as to whether or not you made a good decision as to whether or not you got it or didn't get it. And if you didn't even know it existed, and this is the first time you've seen it, hopefully now you will have a better understanding of whether or not you ever want to try to pursue it. From my understanding, even he's now offering a second batch of them. So if you are so inclined to wish to seek one out, from my understanding, he's taken pre-orders on them. Should you decide you wanted to try to track one down, they are available, evidently, to be starting crafting again. Keep that in mind as well. However, if I understand correctly, the new ones will be more expensive than these were. And these were, I think, $3.99. I think is what I paid for it, $400. Plus, I think another $75 or something in shipping. I don't remember exactly. So I would anticipate that these will be more. the next batch of them. So, but I imagine they're still going to be done in the same manner. So, guys, if you don't have anything else for me, I guess I'm going to let you go. I haven't seen The Mandalorian. I have not either. That's probably one of the reasons why The Mandalorian is so good, because all the directors and writers are actually passionate about Star Wars. Jon Favreau, oh yeah, for instance. So I think you're probably right. And no, I have not seen it either. But if you have passion for your characters, if you have passion for the franchise, if you care about what it is you're writing, if you care for your figures, your characters, you're going to tell a good story. If you don't care about your own people, then you have no business telling the story. For real. If you don't care, why should I? It's as simple as that. So, thank you very much, guys. Like, subscribe. If you wish to donate to Patreon, I would be very happy to receive that. I have a Patreon supporter. I've never shared this person's name because I never received evidence that they wanted to be shared. But I'd be very happy to give that name should you desire. So I will see you all in a week, definitely. And we're going to unbox this package that I got. I have no idea what it is. Please contact me in the meantime. Let me know if you want me to give you credit for it or what you want me to do. If you want me to unbox it in private and just go over it later, I'm not even sure what's in there. I have no idea. And send me stuff. I don't even care what it is. Just send it. It'd be nice to know that you're out there. So I will tell my wife that you guys asked about her. I don't remember whether you did or not, but she's always pleased to hear that you guys care about her. And thank you very much. Love you guys. Peace. See ya. Enjoy. Happy collecting. I can't end it. It won't stop.